G'day, it's Jamie, and welcome to Where's My Yowie. Today, I'm reading a couple of old newspaper reports about Yowie attacks at Running Creek and Eurobin, Victoria in 1932. So we'll get into it. This first report was published in Melbourne's The Herald on Saturday, the 27th of February, 1932, titled Terror of the Ranges, Mystery Animal, Armed Party Out in Search, Savage Attacks Reported. A mystery animal, shaggy and powerful, is terrorising the dwellers in the mountain ranges between Bright and Yakandanda. Already the bush prowler has made 3 savage attacks on wayfarers, and the prints of its giant feet have been found in soft soil. It is the pivot of a dozen theories. It is a grizzly bear. It is an old man kangaroo. It is a gorilla. It is an emu. 5 men have seen it, and each has his own ideas. A reporter of the Herald, who took evidence by long-distance telephone today, elicited the following facts. It walks by night. It is 7 feet high. It has a hairy head, razor claws, and 4 white tusks. It runs like a clumsy deer. It lurks in the shadows and leaps on passing horsemen. It is not a bunyip. They first heard of it about a month ago. One of the Cherry brothers, who are farmers at Running Creek, was going home about 10 o'clock. It was a still moonless night. He came to the gate and bent from the saddle of his horse to lift up the catch. The gate opened. Then, in the darkness, there was a grunt and a scuffle. A bulky figure leapt at the horse's head. The horse bolted, Cherry clinging to his back. Next morning, he went down to the gateway and examined the ground. In the jumble of footmarks, he discerned prints that suggested the foot of a grizzly bear. A couple of nights later, the Cherry brothers heard a strange visitor lumbering and grunting around their hut. The horses threshed and whinnied in terror until the noises ceased. The same week, 3 men from the Running Creek district, greatly daring, decided to hunt the mountain miscreant. One evening they climbed into a buckboard and drove along to the Cherry brothers' shack for guidance. They combed the thick scrub for several hours. Their guns and rifles were loaded, ready for an encounter, but neither hide nor hair of the outlaw did they see. It was getting on for midnight when they set off for home in the buckboard. They bumped through the eerie shadows of the Running Creek Road, talking of the exploit, a shade sceptical perhaps. And then, in the winking of an eye, the thing that they had been seeking was on them. The scared horse stumbled and fell. The shafts of the buckboard broke, and the 3 hunters were tossed into the roadway. They picked up their guns and fired, but in the instant of confusion, the mystery animal had sneaked back into the bush, no doubt congratulating itself on another victory. They found a print of its foot when daylight came. The print was covered over with a square of tin to preserve it, and proved that the story was not a vain imagining. Slowly the alarm died. Someone shot at a tough old emu, and the scoffers said this must be the prowler, but the mystery animal was biding his time. On Thursday night, William Nuttall, a 21-year-old drover, his sister, Mrs. L. Mayer, and Ted Clearland were riding home to Myrtleford. That day they had driven a mob of fat cattle to the sales at Bright. It was about 9 o'clock. The moon was shining. The sky was rich with stars. They came near Eurobin, about 10 miles from Myrtleford, and young Nuttall got off his horse to tighten the girth. There was moonlight on the track, but Nuttall pulled his horse into the shadows cast by the trees. His sister and Cleland trotted on. "We were about 200 yards ahead of him," said Mrs. Marr, said today. "Then I heard my brother shout, 'Ride like mad, and animals attacked me.' My horse took fright and bolted. For 3 miles I couldn't hold him. It was only my brother's shout that alarmed him. He must have sensed something else in the air." Meanwhile, Nuttall was facing the mystery animal. It loomed from the shadows and made a sweep at him with its paw. The claw ripped his shirt and flannel, but missed his body. His horse took fright and pounded down the road. Nuttall looked once at the apparition, the hairy head, the tusks, the waving arms, and dashed for the wire fence dividing him from the railway line. He sprang the fence, the creature at his heels. He raced down the railway track. The animal was springing behind him, grunting and scattering the metal with its feet. 20 or 30 yards they raced, and then Nuttall saw his horse standing in the roadway quivering. He turned from the railway line and cleared the wire fence in a single spring. He heard his pursuer blunder into the fence and fall back. He told his sister it was the only thing that saved him. He vaulted into the saddle and rode for safety. This is the history of the mystery animal of the mountains so far. Some Myrtlefoot folk have a theory that he is an old man kangaroo, driven from the Buffalo Mountains by the bushfires, wandering half blind with scorched eyes through the night. William Nuttall does not accept this theory. He thinks his attacker was a gorilla. Then some say he is an animal that escaped from a circus that visited Yakandandar recently. Yakandandar says no circus has been there for 2 years. This afternoon, a party of armed horsemen will leave Myrtleford for the search for the creature. What will they find in the rugged mountains? The end. Okay, so this final article was published in Grafton's Daily Examiner on Thursday, the 3rd of March, 1932, titled Strange Animal. William Nuttall of Myrtleford, Victoria, accompanied by his sister and a companion, was returning from Bright, and near the Eurobin railway station, he alighted from his horse and entered a paddock, holding the reins, and the others riding on a short distance. A strange animal, which snarled, attacked Nuttall, and tore his shirt to ribbons. The horse broke away, and when Nuttall ran, the animal followed him to the railway line, where a wire fence apparently stopped it. Nuttall described the animal as being about 7 feet in height, with a round, hairy head, 4 tusks, and it stood on 2 legs. It is believed to be an animal which escaped from a travelling circus when it was at Yakandandar some time ago. The animal has been seen by residents in different parts of the district, its tracks being plainly discernible. It is said to resemble an ape. Parties are out searching for it. The end. Well, that's pretty amazing and pretty scary. That would have been scary as being attacked by this. And so there was 3 attacks, and they're calling it a shaggy and powerful animal. They found prints of it, and they're saying giant feet. Some people think it's a grizzly bear. Some people think it's an old man kangaroo. Some people thought it was a gorilla, and some thought it was an emu. 5 men have seen it. They say it walks by night. It's 7 feet high, has a hairy head, razor claws, 4 white tusks. It runs like a clumsy deer and lurks in the shadows and leaps on passing horsemen. Okay, so the first attack was one of the Cherry brothers was riding home on his horse, and he bent from his saddle to lift the latch on the gate and open it, and then he heard a grunt, and then there was a scuffle, and a bulky figure leapt at his horse's head, and his horse bolted. And then the next morning he went back, and there was footprints found there that looked like a grizzly bear. And then a couple of nights later, at the Cherry brothers' hut, they heard strange noises, and they could hear the visitor lumbering and grunting around their hut, and the horses threshed and whinnied in terror. And then the same week, 3 men decided to go out and try and catch it in a buckboard. And they were riding along, and then they couldn't find it, so they started heading home. And as they were heading home, the thing jumped out and scared their horse and threw them on. The buckboard broke and they got thrown on the roadway. Picked up their guns and fired at it, but it took off and they never got it. And then William Nuttall, he was riding home from delivering cattle that day with his sister and a mate, and they were near the Myrtleford railway station, the Eurobin railway station, and it growled at him and had a go at him, and it tore his shirt to ribbons, and then chased after him. And the only thing that saved him was he leapt over the fence, and obviously the Yowie didn't see it and ran into the fence. And William Nuttall reckons it's a gorilla that did it, and he described it as 7 feet high, with a round hairy head and 4 tusks, and it stood on 2 legs. That would have been so scary. And I wonder what got the Yowie so aggressive that it wanted to attack 3 different lots of people. Really interesting stuff. Okay, that's it for me. I'll get back to you all later. See ya. Bye.